The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships. Or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
All right, guys, welcome to Monday's Habit-Based Lifestyle and Business Show. Today is our Q&A call. And today we also have a special guest, Justin Schroeder. And Justin actually happened to ask me a question, and I thought it would be good just to bring him on the show and actually kind of work with where he's at and see if we can kind of help him get his questions answered, and then kind of get him set up on the path of where he needs to go. For a lot of the guys, you know, inside of the Habit-Based Lifestyle and Business Show group, we don't do this a lot. So when we do this, I feel like there's a place and a time and space that we get to go to just to get clear on where it is that, hey, I'm in this season of transition. I don't know exactly where I'm going or how I'm going to get there, but I feel like sometimes that's, you know, where we're able to step in and just kind of guide you along the way. So just want to say, man, I'm grateful for the opportunity for you to be on. And could you give everybody just kind of a brief intro on, you know, who you are, what you do, and kind of like what got you on the show today?
All right. Of course, my name is Justin Schroeder. I'm in that weird transition period. I left security contracting to come towards actually being able to serve and help people, which is something I'm deeply, deeply passionate about. I've had a few coaching clients in the past, but it was never something that I committed all into. I think some of that comes from imposter syndrome and wondering, you know, the question of why me. But I'm starting from basically scratch. It's I don't no website, no funnel, none of that stuff. I'm literally, what drew me into the habit-based lifestyle was a friend of mine, Sarah Vincent. She told me about you, and she was like, you definitely need to get in on this if this is where you're headed, and do it the right way. And so I joined the group and, of course, connected with you. And here we are today on the call, starting from scratch with a pen and a notebook, and just trying to understand when there's all this noise in that space of whether it be helping men or helping a business, where to start and what direction to take. Because at this point, I'll be honest with you, I feel like I've got a compass. I just don't have the map to understand it.
Yeah, that's so powerful, man. One thing I want you to know is just the ability to be honest about where you are is a powerful thing, and I think it's often overlooked. And I think, you know, for you is like the feelings you describe of having kind of like this imposter syndrome, you know, feeling called, but not really knowing exactly what that looks like. You know, these are all things that every entrepreneur feels, every business owner feels. And especially when we step into more of a purpose-driven business, that it's like, hey, man, I want to take my mess, all the things that I've been through, and make that my mission. That's a powerful place for you to be. But oftentimes in that, we think that because we've been a mess, or because we've went through a lot of the messes, that maybe we're not qualified to lead other people. And I want you to know that actually qualifies you even more. And so I want you to know that you're more than qualified. That's why you actually feel this pull. And so as we go through this today, I want you to step into this conversation, not from a place of clarity, but from a place of courage. Because people often come in here and come to me and they say, man, I want clarity. And I said, listen, it's not clarity that you seek, it's courage. It's the courage to move forward when that voice in your head is telling you, no, you're an imposter. no, you're not qualified. No, you don't have everything. You don't have everything together in your life right now. And just because of that doesn't mean you're not qualified.
That,
Um,
that's been a huge issue for almost 2 years. That's why I went back to security contracting. Um, it's exactly that. That what qualifies me to be able to lead other men. I can do it from a sense when if I was put in that position, whether it was in the automotive industry, whether it was in the military, whether it was from a security standpoint, I was very comfortable in that realm. And it's you step out into something like this outside of again the comfort zone, knowing that I am a fuck up, I am a failure, I have just like everybody else, all these messes in my life that led me to this point. Um, how do I turn that around and stop men from doing the same thing?
right. And because you've went through all those things in your life, you're able to help guide someone else who maybe is on their path to making similar mess ups, similar mistakes, but you're able to kind of be a speed bump in the way for them to where like they slow down and you help guide them over that speed bump so they don't like miss that and just keep going. And so, the ability to help someone temporarily slow down so that they can speed up and not make the same mistakes as you. I just want to encourage you, man, that your weakness or the mess that you've really had is really your strength. And oftentimes because of the place we're in life that we feel like maybe I'm not qualified, maybe I have too many weaknesses, but like there's going to be a period of time where you're going to be able to see that those weaknesses are really what you leverage as your true strength. And the many works that you've done in your life are just tools for you. They're tools that you've used. They're tools that you've used to get to where you are. Okay. And so security is one of the abilities you have is to make people feel secure when they're around you. And what does that mean? That means that when they're around you, they gain confidence from you. They feel secure in who they are. And that allows them to be able to step out in who they are. Now, part of the other side of, where we want to work on is you being able to step out in faith and not necessarily know all the answers or have all the answers, right? But trust that where you're going is actually the correct place in what you're called to do.
Awesome. So my question to your post was very simple. If you had to start over from scratch with absolutely nothing, I've started to optimize my Facebook profile to, like you said, make it exactly what it is, and that's a digital business card. I started that process late last night and started into it this morning as I was watching another one of the guide trainings. And I saw this question pop up. And so I just figured I'd ask if you had to start with nothing and start completely all over again, what would be some of your first steps besides optimizing your Facebook profile?
Sure. Well, let me give you a little backstory on me. So like that way you have a little bit of context and you can see that I actually did have to start all over about 3 years ago. And kind of like the mistakes I made, and then why I actually do what I do today is because I went through the same things that you're kind of going through. So 2018, me and my wife owned two personal training facilities in Washington State. At the time, I was working for Wake Up Warriors, one of the head coaches for Warrior Week, and then also certified. I was running the certified trainer program, and I kind of had an opportunity to either move to Southern California, work for them full time, which I'd gotten kind of burnt out on the personal training, fitness industry. But our gyms were very successful. We were doing over $2 million a year in revenue. But I had to kind of pick because I was spending about 20 to 22 weeks down here a year. I had to pick if I wanted to continue that or go work full time for Wake Up Warrior. And so I decided to sell my training facilities, and we ended up selling our home. And at that time, our life was, really good. It was in a really good place. We were comfortable. I would say we were super comfortable, right? And so in that, we sold our gyms. We moved to Southern California, and I started working kind of full time for Wake Up Warrior, and working for them, down in California, which is much different for me, right? Because I came from having my own space, having my own places, kind of managing things myself. Yes, I worked for them, but it was more contract. So it wasn't like, necessarily I worked for them. I did kind of a contract for them. So when I got here, my first thing is I didn't like it, man. I didn't like having my own space. I didn't like having someone else's thumb on top of me. I didn't like kind of like feeling like I didn't have my creativity. And then I also didn't like not having my own gyms. And kind of like, that was like my space. So first thing I did about 6 weeks in is I got my own office, built my own gym in the back of it, kind of designed it the way I wanted. That was a little bit better. But then I realized I didn't really like someone else telling me how to do things that I don't even want to say that I didn't agree with. I'm just more of a systems and structure guy, which is exactly why I have a program called Habit-Based Lifestyle. But and I needed that to be successful. And so, we made a decision that was like, hey, you can either come back, coach Warrior Weeks, or you can go do your own thing. And so December 2018, about 4 or 5 months after being here, my contract ended for them, and all of a sudden now I'm on my own. I had to start over. And so why I wanted to tell you that story was to give you a little context of, hey, I did actually have to start over. I went from, a $2 million a year business, not making that, but like, that's what we were bringing in, to having to literally start over. And the guarantee that I had coming, moving to California was all of a sudden gone. And I got a wife and 3 kids, and, Orange County is not cheap to live in. So I did start over. Right. And I wrote the book. I launched a podcast. I, ran Facebook ads. I did challenges. I did all the things that everybody was telling me to do. And out of all of those put together, I probably spent about $60,000, and what I returned in that was nothing. And on top of that, I had coaches, bunch of different things, and telling me to do all these things, and I really made nothing back in return. But where I did make my money was all through organic marketing. And believe me when I say this, it's much more dialed in now than it was then. But I still made almost $500,000 that first year coaching. I was doing challenges. I was doing, literally everything, man. I was posting content on 4 platforms, 2 to 3 times a day. I was really doing everything. And let's just say COVID hits in February, March of last year. A lot of my clients were coming to me and saying, like, Jesse, like, I don't know if I can keep coaching with you. We're not getting clients. We're not getting referrals like we used to. What are you going to do? Or what can you do? And I'm like, listen, let me teach you guys this organic marketing process and system that helped me get to where I was, not only in the gym industry, but also in the coaching. And because I really had no clients when I started it. I had some people from Warrior, but they were still coaching guys. So it wasn't like I was able to move a bunch of clients over to myself. I really started over. And so I started teaching these guys this organic marketing system, started changing their Facebook profile, started getting more engagement content. And within about 4 to 6 weeks, a lot of these guys are coming to me and they're like, man, I'm actually busier now than before COVID. And so as we started teaching them this process and system, we started testing it in about 8 or 9 different industries, from, a lot of health and wellness coaching, consulting, business coaching, consulting, and then also like insurance, financial services, real estate, mortgage, chiropractic. A lot of these businesses, we really prove the model and concept first. And then in July of 2019 or 2020, we kind of launched this style of of business, and we hit 7 figures in 7 months. And so this is really what I teach. So when you say, what would you do different? I would say this: I would not do challenges. I would do more high ticket coaching. High ticket for us, what we teach people to do is anywhere from 2K to $24,000 per transaction. A lot of people aren't comfortable at first charging 2K. I get it. But we really teach you how to leverage your unique skill set, what you've kind of been through in your life, what you've learned, what you've experienced, put it up into a package, and then lead from that place. Obviously, number one thing is you want to be in alignment with what you're doing. But what I would do different is start high ticket, do organic marketing, prove the concept works first. Then I would put money behind it, like Facebook ads, things like that. And so, what we really do is teach people how to make their first $10,000 to $20,000 leveraging their Facebook profile before they have to do anything else. And the reason why is it's so easy for you to make money that way versus worrying about Facebook ads, worrying about writing a book, launching a podcast, any of those things. And keep in mind, I've had a podcast since end of 2018, done over 300 episodes. Until I started doing a specific type of show, I can't say that any money has come in from my podcast until about episode 275. And it was only because of the way we switched how we made them. But that's where I would start. So you don't need a website. You don't need a funnel. You don't need Facebook ads. You don't need a podcast. You don't need a website. You don't need anything other than a Facebook profile to begin starting making money. And then, like you said, first place you start is with your Facebook profile. That's the number one way that you can start, is like, where does your Facebook profile actually take people? Or is it a dead end? And I would say for most people, it leads people to a dead end because it doesn't really have a call to action. It doesn't really tell them who you help or how you help them. So people are kind of confused that, hey, this guy's putting out all this content, but I don't really know the rhyme or reason behind it. So, and you feel free to ask more questions inside of that, or,
No, you're opening my eyes. That's exactly what I've been giving them as a dead end for 2.5, 3 years. I feel more lucky than most. I mean, I had a video go viral back in 2018, and that garnered me a lot of attention, a lot of followers. I've got 25,000 followers on just Facebook to my private profile alone, that I can market to. And I didn't do anything with it. And again, it goes back to that fake and fraud and imposter syndrome thing. Because that's like, almost felt like that's not why these people followed me in the first place. They followed me for some video about my neighbor leaving a note on my door to take my flag down. Right. And that just blew up overnight. It was absolutely insane. And I wasn't mentally, I wasn't prepared for that. I went and I hid. I hid from the hype. I hid from it just because it was like I wasn't where I needed to be. Not only I wasn't in alignment with my head and my heart where I needed to be, and I wasn't ready for it. And that's not what I intended to actually ever use Facebook for.
Right.
So it just it threw me off my whole system. And that's when I went back to security contracting. I was like, all right, I had a few people that I'd pick up through, pieces of content here and there as coaching clients. But for the most part, I mean, I've been silent for over 6 months now on it. And it was mainly because I didn't know where to start, how I wanted to start, or where I needed to go. And then I came across, like I said, I came across you, and it was like, like when you ask the universe and you ask God for help, you just got to shut up and listen sometimes.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree, man. I would say that the biggest question that I have for you out of all of that is, what are you afraid of people finding out about you?
Nothing.
So, but there is something, because otherwise you wouldn't go back to hiding and play it safe. You know what I mean? So a lot of times, like, we play small, we hide because we have something we're trying to hide or conceal. Think of kind of like the grapefruit, right? If we had a big grapefruit we were carrying around and we put it under our shirt, it's like the grapefruit is the lie or maybe the thing that we're trying to conceal, where everybody else can kind of see it, but we still try to hide it. And I know for me, at times when I might put out content that's a little more vulnerable or put out stuff, I have a natural tendency to kind of like hide once I do that after I put it out. And then it's like, man, I don't know if like I like this a whole lot. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's kind of where I usually, see a lot of people in your situations. Like we feel like an imposter because we're still trying to conceal something and not in hope someone doesn't find out. Usually the people I've talked to, it's a family member or a close friend that we don't want to, it's like we're afraid of what they'll think or what they'll say.
You're 100% right on that. And now that you brought that to my attention, a lot of it, I went through a bad breakup about a little over a year ago. Her and I were together for 3.5 years. And I remember her looking at me as she was leaving and she said, "You don't really believe, the shit you post to Facebook, do you?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I think that still to this day rings in the back of my head, even though like I'm seeking for whatever reason. I mean, I haven't spoke to her in over a year, but it's like, it's almost subconsciously I realize that I'm looking for like almost a maybe validation or something from her.
I
And
think every time you post, it's probably the number one thing you think about before you push,
it is.
post or send. Before you send that, there's a split second where that conversation comes up. And
It's
it's holding you back, man. I mean, that's the reality of it. It's holding you back from taking a step forward in coaching. It's what makes you feel like an imposter. Um, but it's not who you are. It's not your identity, but you're letting it be your identity. And in that, it's keeping you from what's God's called you to be.
yeah. Um, and I've made peace with never talking to her again. It was a very toxic relationship. Um, I don't know if it's the trauma bond between the two.
Have you really made peace with never talking to her again? Or,
I have, she hasn't.
okay, well, I would say that you wouldn't know she hasn't if you haven't.
Okay.
So like it still affects you today. So how have you made peace with it if it still affects you today?
You're right. I guess I got some work to do on that.
So let's work on this, man. That's why you're here. Okay. Like the question wasn't really the question. I knew there was a deeper part of the question. So number one thing we have to do is stop lying, right? And so the lie you've told yourself is like, I've made peace with this. Okay.
Okay.
But that was your truth like 2 minutes ago, right? You lied to me saying, listen, I've made peace with this, but really that's the lie to yourself because that's what makes you seek comfort. That's what makes you go back to wanting to be the security person. That's what makes you go back to, wanting to hide and not post, right?
Right.
So we have to step in and reveal the lie, the grapefruit, right? Because that's what we've been carrying. And it's like, bro, I made peace with this. I'm like, really? Why is there a big grapefruit, hanging out of your belt, showing everybody else? So like we know the minute you say I made peace with this, like it's not true.
Okay.
So we come to terms with, hey, I have not made peace with this. Okay. And then we ask a better question. Okay. Justin, like what would make you feel at peace with what's her name?
Emily.
Emily. What would make you feel at peace with Emily? Like, how would we know you achieved that peace?
I honestly don't know at this point what would give me that peace. I think
Okay.
for the last year, I was left with no closure. I was left with, in a sense, and it comes back to, coming out of the military, coming from a security standpoint, we have a saying, right? There is no such thing as a victim. There's only volunteers, right? Like we don't like being a victim of something isn't just something that ever crosses my mind. right? And as I sat back and I started to understand the relationship more and more, what it was, like I guess I need to stop lying to myself and just admit I was a victim of narcissistic abuse in a relationship, and that's something that's hard for me to swallow, just because I've never been a victim of really anything in my life. I've always been a volunteer of it, you know. And you're right. I do need to stop lying to myself. Like, that's for me. I guess that's the step one of closure. You're right. Is stop lying to myself and understand that this isn't something I did. It's what, I like accepting the fact it was a real relationship for me, and it actually meant something to me, versus understanding how quickly she moved on. That was her perception. That wasn't mine. You know,
Right.
and I think that's probably where the healing starts.
So she moved on. You didn't. You haven't.
Correct.
You've tried, it sounds like, but it sounds like you're still hurt, which, dude, it's a relationship, right? I mean, you have feelings. I would say the biggest thing in the military was they're teaching you to shut off your feelings. And, that's where like you can't be a victim. So it's not really about being a victim or not. It's when I get in the victim mode or victim mindset, how can I shift out of that and shift into something else? So like, dude, I could tell you that it's very easy for me to go to victim, in my marriage and even in my business. Like, hey, this is happening to me. Like, why is this happening to me? Why is my wife doing this to me? Right. But it's like, man, I recognize when I start having that internal dialogue, like, how do I shift out of this? What's the lie I'm telling myself? What does God say that I am? Okay. So like, take your finger, man, and put it up in the air. Okay. So like, one thing I heard a couple weeks ago, and it was like this: God never pointed his finger at you, right?
Right.
So when we begin to point the finger at ourselves, at someone else, what is really happening?
It's a reflection back on you.
We're getting out of our God-given identity.
Gotcha.
Okay. So your God-given identity is not being a victim. Your God-given identity is something else. Okay. And so God many times reaches out to us by his hand, not by his finger. Okay. And if you read, how many times in the Bible it talks about like the hand of God, the right hand, it never mentions the finger. But when we begin to use the finger, we begin to operate from an identity of more of kind of a victim mindset, right? Poor
Right.
me, she did this to me. Why does life have to be this way? Right. And so when we start recognizing that we're not living in our identity anymore, we have to begin to work on shifting out of that into, well, what does God say you are?
Okay.
Because he doesn't say that about you.
Get it.
So close your eyes for a second.
Okay.
Just keep them closed till I tell you to open them. I want you to take a deep breath in, breathe out. Take a deep breath in, breathe out. Deep breath in. And keep your eyes closed. So God actually has an identity for you in your life. And if you listen enough, you'll actually hear him say that. So you're not a victim. You're not any of those things. Okay. What you are is something else. So what word or phrase is coming to you right now in this moment that God's saying who you are?
True grit.
True grit. So what is that? What does that mean? What's underneath that true grit?
I've faced a lot harder than this in life. A lot. I've made it through so much more to get to where I'm at right here, right now, in this present moment on this call.
Okay. So what is all that stuff you've conquered along the way? What is that identity that you've been given by God?
A man of service,
Okay. Keep going.
a man of service, a man of faith, a man of
Just write these down as you go. Just write them down.
yeah,
Man of service, man of faith. Keep going. Start with true grit at the top. There's a word that's coming to me, but I want you to see if you can tap into it.
I'm struggling this morning. I really am.
Okay, resilience.
Okay.
So I am resilient. Okay, how does that feel?
Good.
Does that sound like true grit, man of service, man of faith, all those things? You're a resilient man, and that's like your God-given identity. Not being a victim. You can be, right? Temporarily, we can feel it, but like shifting out of it's really the key. Instead of I am a victim, man, I am resilient.
Brother, if I could come through this computer and give you a hug right now, I would.
Just smile, man. That's the best hug you can give me.
Thank you.
So I am resilient is really the identity that you have and that you've created and why you want to help other people. So when you feel like a victim, the positive opposite is I'm resilient. And so how do you go out and reach out to 5 other people to let them know that they're resilient?
It's a great question. And that's exactly where I find myself stuck in a whirlwind anymore is aside from creating whether it be a Facebook post or an Instagram post, talking about that exactly resiliency and what it means to me, a true core belief in my life.
So imagine this. Every time you feel like a victim, instead of getting caught up in that, imagine if you just reached out to 5 people, whether it was friends, family members, somebody on social media, and you sent them a message and you just said, dude, you are resilient. Like I see this in you. And when you begin to see it in other people, you'll begin to see it in yourself.
Tracking.
Okay, so faith takes action, but it also requires you to listen. And you're going to have to listen to when, being a victim comes up. You're going to have to listen for those because that's a natural place for you to go. Okay, because why wouldn't the devil want to attack you with being a victim when on the other side of it, your strength is resilience? So why wouldn't he want to attack you and tell you that you're a victim? Why wouldn't he want to put people in your life to make you feel like a victim? Okay. But on the other side of that is there's an opposite that's a strength, and you're going to have to use that as your shield and your weapon.
Got it.
So this is the calling you feel called to, but you're going to have to begin with the messaging.
Correct.
So here's one thing that I learned, training with Navy SEALs, and it really got anchored in yesterday. And it's crazy that we're having this conversation today. And it was, we did an event called Kokoro, and, you're working with Navy SEALs, you're up for like 65 hours straight, no sleep. And they said the minute you get caught in your own pain is the minute you need to turn your attention on somebody else and ask them how like if they're okay. And so the minute that you get caught in your own pain of being a victim is the minute you need to turn the attention of something else and asking someone else, hey, I see resilience in you. Maybe it's depression. I feel depressed or I feel discouraged. How can I encourage 5 other people? And I heard this at church yesterday. Even our pastor talked about it. He's like, imagine if you felt discouraged, like today, I feel discouraged. I feel depressed. Imagine if you just reached out to 5 people and gave them encouragement on what they were doing and where they were going. How much faster would that shift for you? right? Because when we're able to help other people, when we're able to shift out of that place, we can now move forward.
I get it. I absolutely get it.
And so, yes, you can feel pain. Yes, you can feel the hurt. Yes, you can feel being a victim and feeling victimized. Okay. But staying there is not an option for you anymore. Okay. Because you're resilient, man. So you're going to feel that stuff, but you're also resilient enough to shift out of it.
And I know I am. I've done it many times before in my life.
Of course you have. But when it's an emotional thing versus a physical beating, it's different. The emotional stuff hurts way worse than the physical stuff. You could take a beating all day long.
Yeah.
Okay. But the emotional pain of giving yourself up to another person and allowing them into your space and then for them to hurt you, dude, that's a different kind of hurt. That's a deep, deep hurt. And I'm guessing you've had some stuff go on as a kid that you felt that there's probably another healing deeper than even this girl that goes back even farther.
Yeah.
And so it's just about peeling. Like, you got one layer of the onion, there's a deeper side of it, and we just keep working our way back. Okay. But at the end of the day, what you'll see in each phase of that is you're still resilient.
Copy that.
But the only way to keep you down is to make you believe that you're a victim.
So taking what I've learned, taking that resiliency, taking these things and moving past it, healing from it, putting myself back out there.
You already healed, man. It's just whether or not you choose to believe it and have faith in it.
So with that, I guess if there was, it is some scary shit to talk about. It is. I know vulnerability isn't a weakness; it's a superpower. I understand that. That's where I feel compelled to and called to is to help other men realize the same thing. I guess I just didn't realize where I was at. And so for that, I'm truly, truly grateful for this call today. Again, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. But why else would you have to go through this process yourself if this is really what you want to help other men with? Like, wouldn't you think that this was the training ground for you to actually be able to help someone out? The same as me, man. Whether it was like 5, 6, 7 years ago, even to today, like a week ago, I still go through stuff like this. Like, it doesn't go away. The feeling doesn't go away, but the length of time it stays and sticks around is a lot less than it used to be.
Copy that.
Does that make sense? So, like, dude, this is training. Like, now that you know that being a victim is the training ground of you being resilient, like, how much different do you think about it?
Yeah, it's a complete 180.
Bro, it's like going to the gym, right? And like working out for like an hour. Now my workout's like a mental workout that I can like work through this in a matter of a couple minutes to 20, 30 minutes to an hour, get rid of it and move on.
That's exactly it.
So it's no longer, a grapefruit as it is just, this is a training for you. Okay, so what are you learning from this?
My mess is my message.
Yeah, or your mission, right?
My mission. My mess is my mission. Yeah.
The things that I've went through, the things that I'm going through, one day will become my mission. Right now, maybe because I don't have the answer, maybe because I don't know what's going to be revealed, it's a training ground. And this training is going to provide me the tools to help other people going through the same thing. So what would you do different? I would lead from this place of resilience. Talk about, you know, the things that you've struggled with that have got you where you are today, the true grit, you know, all these things have helped you get to where you want to be today. And although it sucks going through them, it's setting yourself free. You want to set yourself free, lead yourself, lead others, and then lead your family. But first you got to learn it.
Right.
You got to learn it. You got to live it, right? We live it by going through it, experiencing it, and then we can now have the ability to lead it. But if you don't learn it and you don't live it, how are you ever going to lead it?
I wouldn't. I'd just be another one of those fake ass gurus trying to take somebody's money and not actually helping them.
Right.
And that's not where I want to be. Never.
None of us want to be there. But I mean, even then, that's not really our problem. That's their problem.
Right. I think I've got a game plan, brother.
Okay, good,
Well,
man. So what do you need to do different? What would I do differently is I would leverage my Facebook to be able to talk about this, lean on this, and, you know, work on encouraging other people.
So one thing I was working on last night, and it was kind of something I was brainstorming around with. I know for a lot of men, it's hard to show that emotion, or it's hard to allow that emotion to come across, at least publicly. I thought about starting just kind of, again, reverse engineered kind of what you've done with this group, a free group and a place for men to actually come in and ask these questions and have these conversations. And in a sense, putting my ideal client into that group to be able to make the offers to them within that group. Is that something that you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's probably later on down the road. I would say right now, get the engagement up on, you know, getting people engaging with you that are just relating to you and what you're saying. Facebook groups, you can still kind of hide.
Right.
Right. But you can't hide, you know, on the regular Facebook. So yeah, I would start there, build it up to a certain place, and then you could start, you know, give it 30 days and then see what happens. And then as you get more and more people reaching out to you, like, hey, do you have a group? Would love to talk more about this. Then open up a group.
Okay.
Okay, man. Anything else?
No, at the moment, man, I've got a lot of stuff I got a lot going on up here to process.
You only got two things, right? What's my move when I go to being a victim? What am I shifting into, which is resilience? Maybe for a while, when I feel like a victim, the only way to feel resilient is like, hey, I am resilient. But not only that, reach out to 5 people and tell them that you see that quality in them. Because you got to take the focus off your pain and turn it into a power. The only way to do that is to, you know, put that attention into something else or someone else.
Got it.
That's it. And just focus on that for a little while.
Absolutely.
Get your brain trained to just be like, okay, I'm feeling like a victim again. Here's a story creeping in. And then how fast can you shift out of that? If it gets really bad and gets really hard, drop down, do like 20 push-ups and then do it.
Okay.
Because all you're really looking for is a change of state, right? When we push our energy somewhere else, when we exercise, that gives us the change of state.
All right, brother.
Okay, man. Well, reach out to me. Let me know how you're doing in a couple of days.
I will.
All right, bro. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay. See you.
All right. Bye-bye.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse